At our last election some 2 years ago, a big turnover of councillors, a big change in what's happening in our city. And it's not just our city, it's also across the metropolitan area, and I suspect it's also Australia-wide. And what that is saying is that people are demanding change. What was seen in the 1970s, the fringe movement, has now started to morph into saying we can do this better. We can look after our environment much better. We can do things to our environment that make us a better place to be. So people have asked me in the last couple of years as being mayor, I never set out to be mayor, I've been on council a long time, and as it fell, the new council asked me could I take the role, which I said yes, and I said, well, what do you want to do? And it is the idea of let's try and live up to our logo of Garden City and quality lifestyle. So we said we were the Garden City, and Chris knows that we'd started things in place, and Chris has been on council, Chris Cornish that is over here, for 6 years. Again, starting to move closer to say it's just a name in many ways, but what are you really doing? So we started out with this endeavour. We started out saying, what can we do better? What can we do better? And in many ways, it starts out by looking at things that we've got up here on the board, the Garden City concept of, can we do planter boxes and parklets? Look, our public open spaces are very valued in the city. It's very difficult to create more public open space. We're very close, as you'll see, as you know, to the CBD. Our land areas have been set, so we've got to think and utilise our spaces much better. So the concept of, edible gardens, why can't we do it? You don't have to go back far in history to see in wartime, all those things were done. We used to call them victory gardens and such, and the idea of growing your own fruit and vegetables at home. Now, a lot of our city, as many of you know, houses a migrant population, and the post-war time, when a lot of our migrants, my in-laws included, came over here, they looked at the amount of land. They didn't see land as just something that stands vacant. You can put that to use, and a lot of, as you know, a lot of those communities came and they started saying, let's grow our vegetables in our backyard. And they started that type of tradition and opening a lot of market gardens set up across the City of Bayswater. As our city has grown and as our populations have grown, of course we start to see that, well, the quarter acre block now goes down to 400 to 350 square metres. That space that once was, I keep saying, when our planning schemes were set up and you had to subdivide 10% open space, remember we were on quarter acre blocks when that set up in the 60s. Now it's still 10% open space, but you get lot sizes of 250, 350 square metres. So it's up to local governments to set some parameters to say, what can we do, how can we utilise our space better? Our quick stats over here show that you all know, City of Bayswater, 9 suburbs, 11 elected members, a few stats up there, about 75,000 people. The 2016 census is going to show strong urban infill taking place. What's that mean? Well, it means that congestion, all those things we know about, it means that the backyards are not really existing as we may have grown up, and certainly our parents and grandparents grew up in. So, what did the city try to do? And again, a better and greener Bayswater. We knew we're the Garden City, but it was embarrassing to call ourselves the Garden City because our tree canopy cover was incredibly low, 12.5%. If we're the Garden City, we want to be setting up to somewhere close to 20%. So where do you look to do that? And we looked at our own trees, how many trees we had, how can we do that better? So we've started to say, let's plant more trees, let's plant some more substantial trees. And we went through the argument of today, what size trees, and we plant a lot of 35 litre trees. We plant a lot of tubular stock too. And you'll see that at Lightning Park, over 20,000 small red gums have been planted at Eric's England Bird Sanctuary when we did that, and we've been getting accolades for that. Over 150,000 tubular plants have been planted through that. We keep winning awards. I was disappointed that we almost won the Australian award and we're going to be sent off to the United States through an engineering thing out at Ericssington Bird Sanctuary. But again, the environment became important to us. And greening our city, being the garden city, became important to us. And what do we have to do? Now, if we get on to the next one, it's simple thing. Costa's already alluded to cutting red tape. Do you realise how held back we were by our insurance companies? In other words, you can't do that because in this litigious society, you will be sued. I was brought up on that sort of mantra. I've been in council since 1991. You don't want to do anything that, someone will trip over a footpath and they'll take you to court and you'll lose all this. And your insurance premiums will go through the roof. Guess what? How many times have we been sued? Is this just multinationals trying to make money out of us by paying huge premiums? Our council had the courage to question that. We got our officers to question that. And we had a vision. Now, councillors are just that. Councillors set the vision and let the professional staff work your vision through with us. And that's essentially what happened. We as a council decided that we've got to focus on getting rid of this red tape. Why put barriers in front of people all the time to make it difficult? And has anyone questioned those barriers? Or for the first time, this council in the last couple of years has started to question that, driven by the Audit and Risk Committee. An interesting part of that, and I know I was on the Audit and Risk Committee for a long time before I was mayor, now I'm mayor, and you can't have the mayor and the CEO in charge, and I know Councillor Cornish is now chairperson, and said, right, Chris was one of the ones pushing this red tape. Get rid of it. Let's do it better. Let's make it easier for things to happen. And example of just how to empower people better. The idea of you couldn't have planter boxes on verges. In fact, you could only have softball, you could only have grass on verges. Who said? Well, the insurance company said. Why? What's the figures? Well, our officers came back and said, you know what? Provided that you want planter boxes on there, provided that they don't have a line of sight issue, provided, for traffic so that you can see on corners and such, they came back to us after we pushed them and said, well, we'll allow them to happen. Push the boundaries. I go to so many other logos, you can't do that. Well, I said, go and ask your insurance companies because they allowed us to do it. So the other councillors here, if you want planter boxes, you can have them. Your insurance companies will let you have them. We said, right, we've put some guidelines into place, they're 350 millimetres in height, provided they don't have a line of sight issue with the plants growing out. The other thing, which I thought was quite funny, you can't have plants of a certain height because why can't we have plants of a certain height? Oh, because. And this cost us hit because of something that's out there that may happen. The fact is it hasn't happened. We've got enough evidence to say if you want to use planter boxes, if you want to grow, if you want edible gardens out there on what is now a prime piece of real estate, because the backyards are going. But what's out front, and our visitors have been amazed by the amount of front verge area owned by council that is unutilised essentially to hold grass and be water and take a huge amount of water in one of the driest states on the driest continent on the planet. Doesn't it figure we should be doing things better? And that's what we decided to do. Let's push the boundaries. Let's look at doing things that people want us to do. Aside from what we've been getting, we have already won 2 water awards this year as a council in the way we've approached our water management. And to us, it's pretty simple. Water is a huge resource to us. The water cycle is huge to us. We've got to value it more, and that's what we started to do. We've started to say, let our people have their edible gardens. Let them have gardens that use less water. Let them use the space in front. So, we had a policy change. What did we do? It's up on the board. We turned something that was ambiguous to something that, okay, yes, on your verges, water-wise, edible, native. Let's go back to some of those basics. And what's in the back of our mind? Be the garden city. In this time, we've hired another arborist also to assist us. All these things. Plant height. You can't have plant heights above 750. Why? Well, hang on. Let's change that. Let's change the height of our plants, provided that they don't restrict sidelines. Everyone seemed pretty happy with that. You can't have raised garden beds. Why? Well, now we can have raised garden beds, up to 350 millimetres high. Other councillors in other jurisdictions, take note. Your insurance companies, even though they've been making you pay premiums for something you don't have to use, well, we've challenged it and we've had some victory. You can now in the City of Bayswater grow food and other greens on your verge out in front. We have set up our guidelines. We want people to do this. It enhances our idea of being the garden city on verges. We are really trying to push this. Change is difficult. Some people may or may not accept it. But we put our head on the line and said, no, this is where we need our council to go. And in council, we have arguments all the time, and I think that's great for a council. But we go and sit down, and say, well, let's see what happens. And we want our gardens to take off. We want our parklets to take off. We want all these things to happen. As you can see, we can have those installed garden beds, and when you walk and go around our city, there's far more hazards out on our verges than raised garden beds. You don't have to walk very far. We've been, as Costa pointed out, conned for the last number of years saying you can't do that. Well, we are doing it, and we're allowed to do it, and we're encouraging other people to do it. We want to be the garden city. We want to take control. We want to make it easier. We want people to be part of this community. Why are we doing it in Garden City? It's because it's going to lead to a quality lifestyle. Back to that basics. We had a discussion with Duncan about amenity. Yes, if people feel good about the area and take ownership of the area, it can happen. What's next for the City of Bayswater? We're looking at citrus fruits. We're trying to grow trees, the citrus trees in our local parks. Costa's even given us some examples today about, guess what they do with other councils over in Melbourne? So it's us reinventing the wheel, because I was thinking, well, how are we going to handle fruit fly and all those? I said, well, they do it over east. So, got our officers to say, well, go find out what they're doing and we'll do the same. Quite simple, doesn't take a lot of money, and we can do it. People take ownership of their parks. People take ownership of their verges. What does that do? It takes ownership of your community. Become proud of your community, and that's all the council wants. A garden city with a quality lifestyle. We never set out to change the world. We just want to make the world better in the City of Bayswater. But others are starting to take notice. Premier's Awards last year. Costa taking the time to come over, and edible gardens. We didn't set out to do that, but if we can help others do it, a small little project, the councillors around the table argue and bitch about and go on and we have fun, I think we're getting there. I do need to say one thing. Our staff need to be commended. People like Jeremy Marr, who give his life. Doug Simpson, who had hair like Costa, has a little start. Well, he's trying to grow his beard back by the way. But again, the whole idea, our director saying, right, tell us what we want. And for the first time, our council's been saying, this is what we want. So to Doug and your teams out in engineering and tech services, to Jeremy and your teams out there, I thank you as Mayor. I also want to say, Chris, you've been the driving force behind this for the last 6 years. We all have our pet ideas and pet projects, what we want to do. Chris is the one who's been the pain in the butt to say, we're going to do this. And I don't care what you're going to do, we're going to do this. And a little bit of foresight, a little bit of vision and saying we can do this better, it is starting to happen.